with Ed Coleman. I'm Wayne Randazzo, and right now we are pleased to be joined by Mets first baseman, 2019 National League Rookie of the Year, Pete Alonso. And Pete, I think as we bring you in here, everyone has noticed how focused you've been in camp this year, how ready you seem for the regular season, and now that we're just a little more than a week away, how anxious are you to get to Washington and get things going?
I'm excited. I'm really excited for this year, but you got to let spring training take its course because for me, I think that all the different arms that we could see and all the different game situations that are going to happen in camp need to happen. Because for me, the more game reps, the more ready I'll be. So I'm really excited for this last week of camp. It's going to be a fun week. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly a week, but I'm excited. It's going to be a fun time in DC, and having a full 162 is going to be so fun. I'm excited for it.
Pete, numbers don't mean a lot in spring training, but yours translate very well thus far. 13 hits, 8 of them for extra bases, which shows power. But the thing that's impressed me the most is you've used the whole field. You've gone the other way. You've gone into the gaps, and that has to please you at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And even some of my outs have been to the middle of the field and hit really well. So for me, that's a good sign. And I feel like I'm in a very good place offensively and defensively as well. I feel really good about where my body is getting up to full game speed. So I'm excited. I mean, it's like I said before, it's been a really productive and good spring for me, but I want to be able to carry that over into the regular season when the lights turn on.
You mentioned going back to a full bow to 162 games this year. We've talked a lot about the pitchers having to prepare for a full season again, coming off not throwing as many innings as they are used to. But for a position player, do you think some of that fatigue will set in at some point after having to only play 60 games last year?
Well, I hope it does. I hope it sets in late August or July and August. I think that's when kind of it happens. It happens every year for certain guys, whether it be position players or pitchers. But you got certain guys out there like Jake DeGrom that doesn't really matter what time of year it is. But it's yeah. So hopefully during like July, August, because usually like in that late summer, like the dog days. Those are usually not just for pitchers or position players. Those are the most important days of the season because when it gets super, super hot out and when there's when you start getting to that grinder moment of the season or that grinder time in the season, you got to perform and you got to play well and put yourself in the position to make the postseason. And those games, you got to be locked in regardless of the weather, or regardless of how guys are performing, and you got to do whatever you can to, especially that time during the year, because playoff time is and postseason implications. That's probably the man maker part of the season. That's the gauntlet, and we got to stay strong through that part.
Pete, I asked you this before, but I love the answer to it about Chile Davis being back. And you said we speak the same language.
Yes.
And I totally understand that too. I know you guys talked to Chile a lot via Zoom last year, before, after games, but it's one thing when you can take an at bat and go into the dugout and sit down with somebody and kind of, flesh things out that way. How big is that to have him back in person?
I think it's for me personally, it's extremely important because sometimes it's not even a full sentence or a sit down. Sometimes it's just a couple words and bang, I'm locked back in, or my focus is redirected in the right way. So it's maybe not necessarily anything mechanically, maybe it's just a word or a thought where he can get me focusing on, or my focus directed in a more efficient way. So me and him speak pretty much the same language, and the terminologies he uses, it clicks. It just clicks with me.
Not only is Chile back, but to some degree, you guys get in-game video again. That was gone last year, and now this year you're going to have some dugout iPads and some things that will allow you to watch your in-game at-bats. How much was that something that kind of hindered you last year, and how much will that help you to have that back this year?
Well, I think video is an incredible tool, but last year not having it, I don't want to make an excuse because throughout the minor leagues and throughout college, I didn't have the luxury of having that in-game video, seeing where that strike three pitch was either on or off the plate, or seeing things I wouldn't normally see. So it's a hell of a luxury to have, and being in the big leagues and be able to have that resource is tremendous. It's a great tool. I love having the video. I'd rather have it than not have it, but for me, I don't want to have it be a crutch and have it be an excuse. But I mean, I love having it back. That's for damn sure.
Pete, you talked about your defense before, and there's no question that you've become a better first baseman over the last couple of years. There's a lot riding on the Met defense in the infield this year. You have Francisco Lindor, which is a big step up. But what's your thoughts on the Mets infield with JD at third and Mac at second in you?
I mean, I think we've worked really well so far this spring, and I feel like that we want to give the pitchers confidence out there that we're going to go out there and make plays every single day. I mean, defense is a staple in the game of baseball, and we want to provide that and just peace of mind for our pitchers, and we want to go out there and perform. That's the biggest thing, and I think that because we have a good chemistry, we're gelling extremely well right now in camp. I think that's going to translate incredibly during the season.
What kind of boost has Francisco been to the clubhouse?
I mean, obviously he's a fantastic player, but the thing that I respect about him the most, he always speaks his mind, and he's just a natural leader. I mean, he calls it how he sees it, no matter what, whether it's good or bad. And I feel like that's how we grow and that's how we get better. And it's great having him. He's always engaged. He's always locked in, and he's not just focused on what he has to do himself, but he's always ready to go, locked in, trying to help other people get better. So it's awesome having him so far.
There are guys, Pete, I think that really showed their presence coming over. Albert Almora Jr. is one, Kevin Pillar as well. There's a guy in particular, though, that with the pitching staff, obviously it makes sense the impact that he can have, James McCann. But, with hitters as well, too, I think James is kind of has branched out into that, too. He's a guy that really has shown his leadership, I think, throughout camp here.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a great defensive mind behind the plate with trying to get his pitching staff to attack opposing hitters. I mean, also he can swing it. I mean, he's a threat at the plate, and also he provides a pretty unique perspective because he, being a catcher, you don't know exactly, but you have a very good idea of what other people are trying to do. He does a really good job of explaining how opposing pitchers are trying to attack our hitters, and having his perspective, his baseball IQ is off the charts, and having his knowledge is absolutely fantastic. Not just obviously gifted player, great catcher, and yeah, it's awesome having him.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there have been fans in spring training. There will be about 5,000 fans at Nationals Park to start the regular season, and then a little more than 8,000 at Citi Field when you guys come home from the home opener on April 8th. As the crowds build, as we think they will, as the summer goes on, and you guys start to play in fuller and fuller and eventually a completely full stadium, what will the emotions be like for you to see the fans, to hear that crowd again, and to be in a ballpark that's buzzing?
I think this year, 2021, is all about resiliency, and to be back at Citi Field with a full capacity crowd and hearing the stadium shake when people go nuts. I mean, I haven't found a better feeling. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush, and I miss that feeling. I miss the fans being there cheering us on, because when we have a packed house, it's unbelievable what type of hostile environment they can create for the other team. Walking in there when you got 45,000 rabid Mets fans like doing the "Let's go Mets" chant, and oh man, I miss it. And I'm excited to have you guys, or hey fans, please come back to the game. Miss having you guys, and it's gonna be fun when more and more people are allowed back in.
Did that have a large effect on you last year, Pete? Not having the fans there, and because you've always been able to focus, I think, regardless of the situation. But at the same time, I think that helps you because of your personality.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I just don't know the answer to that question. Like, listen, like I love having the crowd, and I love having the crowd at my back, and it creates a special moment, especially if not just me, but if one of my teammates were to deliver with a hell of a performance. But I miss the crowd, but I don't know if it necessarily affected my performance, because when I'm really out there between the lines, sometimes it's like I just get in like this flow state, and sometimes I don't hear anything. It's not even until like I get back in the dugout, or like I'm like in the middle of doing it around the bases, or sometimes I get in this weird state where sometimes I can hear things and I can't. So it's like, well, the best thing, it's like when I'm in the moment and I'm able to perform, I have like blinders on. That's the best way I can kind of describe it. But then after that moment, after like I do my job, and like I hear the crowd's reaction, like after, it's crazy. So I miss that. And I don't know, again, like last year, it's like last year was last year, and I don't want that to be not having the crowd. I don't want that to be an excuse or a crutch. But I'm just happy to have people back in the stands, and it's going to be a fun year for not just us, but hopefully the fans have a ball when they come out to the games.
Yeah.
Pete, one more before we let you go. You mentioned last year you still were on pace for what would have been a 40 homer season in a full year. You hit 53 in 2019. Do you set numbers for yourself? Any goal in particular that you'd like to reach this year?
Yeah, I'd like to drive in 130 runs, and I'd like to win a Gold Glove. Then that can only be done by staying locked in and being meticulous every single day. And those numbers will be what they are at the end of the year. But if I reach those numbers, it's because I'm stick to my plan. I stayed locked in, and I was able to perform and capitalize on opportunities. And I just want to be as consistent as I possibly can.
Well, we'd all like to see you get there. Pete Alonso, the Mets first baseman. Pete, we thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thanks, guys.